Well, I'm much better than I was feeling at the 88th minute, chaps, when as Garnacho scored that goal, all I could think about was having to come on here and play some music. But what a wonderful game football is, because for all Ten Hag squealing, it was offside. And Arsenal then turned things around in magnificent fashion, and the atmosphere at the end was absolutely rocking. And as I was driving home, all I could think about was my joyous appearance this morning on your wonderful show.
Tell me, Piers, then, because, I mean, to be fair to Ten Hag, he's given us an honest opinion. He's actually said a couple of things post-match after games which I've not necessarily agreed with at all. Now, as I say, he is entitled to his opinion in defending his team. He didn't mention the decision that did go his way, and that was the penalty decision with the referee change with Kai Havertz. I want to ask you about Manchester United before I go on to Chelsea. They seem to be having one step, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. They've now got the problem. They're a little bit unlucky with the offside goal, but they've now got another problem with Jadon Sancho.
Yeah, honestly, I think they're crap. And I'm sorry to have to use that kind of word at this time of the morning for the more sensitive listeners.
Andy's a bit stunned at that.
Is that the technical word for it, Piers?
Well, it is, because I honestly think it's one of the poorest United teams that's ever come to Arsenal. And I think back to the glory years of Ferguson. It's just none of this lot would get into any of Ferguson's teams. I just thought, it got to the stage where when Harry Maguire came on, Arsenal fans cheered. I mean, I just imagine that. This is an England defender. But there's something just inherently wrong about United. I mean, look, maybe I would say this, wouldn't I? But I do think if you look back to my interview with Cristiano Ronaldo, pretty much everything he said about Manchester United, the club, the structure, Ten Hag, all of it, I think, because all those chickens have come home to roost. Everything he said was right. And I think that if you look at the issue with Jadon Sancho, then this is Ronaldo all over again. Him going public, criticising players feeling that he's being deliberately misleading about them, and then having to go public themselves. I mean, there comes a point when Ten Hag has got to look at himself. Someone just tweeted a stat, which is extraordinary, that United under Ten Hag haven't beaten a single top half team away from home since Ten Hag took over as manager of United. Well, that's the problem. I think the guy is, if he played the game with his team that he talks, he'd be the best manager in the world. But I just think he's completely out of his depth. And I think it's a poor United side. I think that they competed for bits of the game yesterday, but in the end, Arsenal were a comfortably better team. But more importantly, I just think the whole way that Arsenal is now run is a template for where United fans, I would think, would want their team to be.
What about some of those Arsenal performances, Piers? I thought Martinelli was terrific yesterday. Every time he got the ball, he tried to make something happen. And I thought he was excellent. And Declan Rice, too, was terrific.
Well, he was great. I mean, look, Martinelli is always good. I think he's one of our best players, along with Saka and Odegaard. I thought they all had great games. But Declan Rice, I thought, was magnificent yesterday. And in fact, I went to see him after the game and had a good chat with him in his family box, and he is absolutely loving being at Arsenal. He's loving it. And there was a moment at the end of the game when he walked around and was taking the applause of the crowd, and I think the instant rapport between Arsenal fans and Declan Rice is one of the best I've seen for a new player that we've probably ever taken on. Actually, I just think he's the perfect missing piece of the puzzle. If you're looking for a player who, I know there's a lot of pressure on him to score more goals. It was great that he scored yesterday. But actually, I just want him doing what he did yesterday. Sit in front of that back four, sweeping everything up, releasing our attacking players consistently and brilliantly. He's such a simple but effective player. He does everything the simple way, but he's got incredible talent, amazing drive, and I think he's got that kind of personality which every fan wants to see in a top player. He reminds me of Tony Adams with a dash of Vieira. I think he's got it all, and I think he's going to be brilliant. I said to him much more of this, but you'll have a statue by Christmas.
Well, I tell you, Piers, you mentioned Tony Adams there, right? And I want to ask you, because I think in attacking areas, clearly you've got players that catch the eye, and that's generally speaking, they do catch the eye, and as the exciting players in most teams. However, I don't know if you agree with me, I think equally, if not arguably more important, is that kind of diamond you have with Ramsdale, Saliba, Gabriel, and as you say, Declan Rice in front. I think that is vital to Arsenal.
Oh, there's no question, and I think it's a real shame that Timber, the new fullback, got injured because I think if you have him and Zinchenko as the fullbacks, then you really have got a fantastic back six, and I say that to include Rice in front of them because he reminds me we haven't really had a player doing this since Gilberto Silva, who I always thought was the most underrated player of the Wenger era because he, in the end, I think we sold him for £1 million and he carried on playing for Brazil for 4 more years. Gilberto Silva just got on with his job fantastically well in defending that back four. And when you have a player that's strong and powerful like Silva or like Declan Rice now, I think it just acts such a protective blanket to the back four. And when Saliba plays, Saliba to me is right now arguably the best centre back in the world. He's an absolutely world class player. So, I think it was brilliant to watch, and I think what Arteta has done, and I give him credit for this. The atmosphere was electric yesterday.
It was.
And even when we went 1-0 down, in the old days, everyone's hearts would have sunk. Yep. The atmosphere would have gone down. We'd have got on the players' backs. But it was a complete opposite. It was a real belief that we would score quickly, and we did. The one issue I have with Arteta right now, and I think every fan has this, none of us really understand why he bought Kai Havertz, right? And I don't want to be mean to Havertz, and I don't want to pile on Havertz. But yesterday, he's played every game so far in the league, and yesterday was his worst performance. He missed an absolute sitter early on. He then gave away the ball for United's goal, for the Rashford goal, and he gave away the ball a few times. Just hit it into touch out of nowhere. Now the problem is, it looks to me like Arteta is trying to adapt a system around Havertz, and that shouldn't be how this works. It should be the other way around. We've got a great system with great players, but when he started putting Partey at right back, every Arsenal fan scratching their head going, why are you doing that? Why are you putting Partey at right back? So I think the Havertz issue, and look, I'm full credit to Arteta. He's proven me wrong a number of times, and he may be right about Havertz, but Chelsea fans who watched him week in, week out, they said, well, this is the guy we had. You'll get flashes of good ability, but he's not a top player, and I don't think we needed him.
No, Piers, very true.
Just a quick one. Give me your views on. I actually think that one of the problems that Arsenal and indeed Liverpool and other top teams are going to have this year in catching Manchester City. I'm not sure there's enough teams in the league that are capable of taking points off Manchester City.
Well, I think we say that. I don't actually think City are as strong as they were last season. So I think when you lose players of the quality of Mahrez, then I don't think that they have strengthened. I just think there's a mental block. And I think when they've got a player like Haaland, everyone's terrified of him. So I think the league is going to be very competitive this year. I think Liverpool look really good again. Chelsea look a total basket case, which is just, it seems like the more money they spend, the more players they get, the worse they get. So there's a clear sort of ideological problem there with the ownership, I think, in terms of how they're trying to run things. But I think a lot of teams are going to be in the mix, and I think there'll be a lot of surprises. I do believe that if Gabriel Jesus stays fit and Declan Rice stays fit, and Gabriel at the back doesn't suddenly disappear to Saudi, because something has gone on with him and Arteta in the last 3 weeks that we're not fully privy to. There's clearly been some disciplinary thing, and the word on the street is that he has been flirting with the Saudi league. Now that would be a disaster if he was to now leave in the next week while the Saudi league can still do transfers. So if we keep this defence and we keep Declan Rice fit and we keep Gabriel Jesus, because I do think he's a top player, I think if we keep those fit, I think Arsenal, have got a very good chance of winning the league. Yeah. So I don't really agree with that. I think people will take points off City.
Just finally, Piers, where do you stand on players coming out on social media criticising maybe the treatment they've had or something that the manager said? We've seen a couple of cases this weekend. Demarai Gray has been a bit critical of the powers that be at Everton, and now obviously Sancho yesterday. Where are you on that?
Well, I think if you're Sancho, your manager's just come out and rinsed you in front of the world for not training properly, and you believe you did train properly, then I think you're perfectly entitled to defend yourself. I don't like any managers who spray gun their players in public. I never have done. Wenger never did it. Ferguson never did it. The great managers don't do this to their players. They keep it all in the house. This is, again, my issue with Ten Hag. It was my issue with the way he treated Ronaldo. And, you look at Ronaldo now, what's he got, 30 goals this season, one only behind Haaland in the world. He looks like a guy of 30, banging in goals for fun. Would he really? Even now, I don't understand why they drove him out of United. I think even that would be great for United. So I think there's a problem in how people like Ten Hag manage their players, and I think if they're going to go public and criticise their players or do it, demonstrably in the ground as Ten Hag did with Ronaldo, they're going to get what comes to them, which is the players are going to say, you know what, I'm not having it. And I think Sancho's perfectly entitled to defend himself.
Okay, Piers, thank you very much. You're back on Talk TV tonight from 8 p.m, watching Freeview 237, Sky 522, Virgin 606, and on the Talk TV app. It says here we're going to break, and Piers is going to give us a song. You still there, Piers?
I am. You want to hear it, boys?
Oh, let's
Yes.
go. We're all together. Here we go.
And I actually sang the original version of this with Vanilla Ice on a private plane to Madrid. And not many people can say that.
You've actually out-named dropped me this year.
Me and Vanilla were on a private plane to Madrid singing this original version.
We've got the music for you.
End of the game yesterday, the entire stadium burst into Rice, baby, Rice, baby. And I was singing it to it myself.
Well done, Piers.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.